They wore crowns, held power, and bathed history in blood. These 7 kings weren't just evil, they rewrote the meaning of madness. You think being emperor is stressful? Well, Caligula, the 3rd emperor of Rome, didn't feel much pressure. He was too busy torturing people for fun. He came to power in 37 AD, just 24 years old. At first, everyone cheered, the Senate smiled, people partied. They thought he'd bring hope after years of chaos. Then, boom, 1 year in, everything changed. After a mysterious illness, Caligula basically became a walking reality show, but make it ancient and terrifying. He threw week-long parties where guests were asked to strip to prove loyalty. He executed an entire group of gladiators because their cheering gave him a headache. He'd randomly point at people in crowds and whisper, maybe I'll have him killed today, just to stay entertained. But the real star of the show? He made his horse a government official. Yep, horse. Its name was Incitatus. It had its own house, gold jewelry, servants, and was reportedly next in line for the Senate. Too bad it couldn't speak Latin. And nobody laughed, because if you laughed, you'd lose your head. If you questioned him, same fate. Eventually, after 4 years of pure madness, Caligula was assassinated by his own guards. Why? Because they were afraid they'd be next in line after the horse. Ever accidentally burned your house down? No? Good for you. Emperor Nero of Rome, on the other hand, may have taken it a bit too far. In the year 64 AD, the city of Rome, capital of the ancient world, went up in flames. For 6 days and 7 nights, the fire raged. People screamed, homes collapsed, temples crumbled, and chaos ruled. And where was Nero? Some ancient sources claim he was chilling in his palace, playing the lyre, and composing poetry about the fall of Troy. Yes, while Rome burned, he wrote poems, because why not? Now here's the weird part. Right after the fire, Nero started building a giant golden palace on the newly cleared land. Coincidence? Maybe. Suspicious? Oh, absolutely. People started whispering, Nero did it. And Nero, like a kid blaming the dog for breaking the vase, pointed at a new group. It was the Christians. At the time, Christianity was a small, misunderstood sect. Nero blamed them for the fire and launched one of the first mass persecutions in Roman history. He had them crucified, burned alive, and most infamously used as human torches to light his garden parties. Yes, garden lights made of people. Netflix couldn't write this darker. Eventually, the people turned on Nero. Facing rebellion, he took his own life. And his famous last words? What an artist dies in me. Yeah, Nero. An artist, maybe. But also the kind who sets the stage on fire, literally. You've heard of Dracula, right? Black hair, red cape, drinks blood, sleeps in a coffin? Cool. But what if I told you the guy who inspired Dracula was way scarier than any vampire movie? His name was Vlad III. Nickname? Vlad the Impaler. In the 15th century, in the land of Wallachia, now Romania, Vlad ruled a kingdom surrounded by chaos. Turks invading, nobles scheming, people rebelling. Vlad didn't like chaos, and he had a very special method of discipline. No jail, no trials. Just big wooden spikes, pointy end up. Yes, he literally impaled people. Massive wooden stakes shoved through bodies, and not quickly. He wanted them to suffer slowly, painfully, dramatically. Think of it as the medieval version of, performance punishment. One time, an entire Turkish army approached his castle, only to find a field of 20,000 impaled bodies. Their reaction? Instant U-turn. No battle today. Thank you very much. Another time, he invited 500 backstabbing nobles to a feast, fed them, got them drunk, then locked the doors and said, "Dinner's over. Now for dessert the spike." Brutal? Yes. Effective? Also yes. So legendary that centuries later, Bram Stoker used him as the inspiration for Dracula. But remember, Dracula drinks blood. Vlad drank fear. Ever been yelled at by your dad for messing up? Well, at least he didn't smash your skull with a royal scepter. Because that's exactly what this king did. Meet Ivan the Terrible, Russia's first Tsar. Brilliant, brutal, and, yes, a little bit unhinged. The year? 1581. Ivan had been ruling for nearly 30 years. He was smart, powerful, and had a rage level set to max. This guy didn't just get mad, he created his own death squad called the Oprichnina, who would roam around Russia, executing anyone Ivan felt was a threat. Now, let's get to the juicy part. Ivan had a son also named Ivan, because why not confuse the historians? The son was bold, respected, and set to become the next Tsar. But then, disaster. One day, Ivan the dad saw his pregnant daughter-in-law wearing something he thought was too revealing. He flew into a rage and beat her so badly she miscarried. The son, rightfully furious, confronted his father. And in a burst of blind fury, Ivan the Terrible grabbed his scepter and struck his own son on the head. Blood, panic, silence. A few days later, the prince was dead. The incident was immortalized in a haunting painting. Ivan holding his son's body, eyes wide with horror, hands trembling, but too late. After that, Ivan spiraled into guilt, madness, and eventually died in 1584. Russia? It fell into chaos, with no clear heir welcome to 15 years of civil war and royal mess. Moral of the story? If you're angry, take a walk. If you're a king, put the royal stick down. Have you ever heard of a king who built towers out of human heads? No, not metaphorical heads, real ones. Welcome to the story of Tamerlane, the man who turned mass murder into architecture. His real name was Timur, also known as Tamerlane, and he ruled in the 14th century when conquering was a weekend hobby. But Timur wasn't your average conqueror. He didn't just defeat his enemies, he decorated the cities with their skulls. Take 1398, for example. He invades Delhi, capital of India. Within days, he executes 100,000 prisoners. And then, he orders his men to build a skull pyramid. Not one, several, stacked neatly, tiered like wedding cakes if your wedding was hosted by Satan. Tamerlane wasn't just a general. He was an interior designer of nightmares. Wherever he went, he left gifts, skull towers, bone walls, full-on bone cities. This was his way of saying, I came, I conquered, and I had an eye for symmetry. His empire stretched across Central Asia and the Middle East. And some of those skull towers still have traces today. Historians call him the legendary conqueror. But let's be real, he might as well be called the most evil architect in history. What do you get when you mix royal ego, golden yachts, and nationwide hunger? You get Emperor Yang of Sui, the second and last emperor of China's Sui dynasty. Born into luxury, Yang took the throne in 604 AD. And boy, did he have big dreams. His first order? Let's dig a giant canal across the entire country. That canal, known as the Grand Canal, stretched over 2,000 kilometers, the longest artificial river in the ancient world. But who dug it? Millions of peasants. with no machines, just sweat, mud, and misery. It's estimated nearly 6 million people died building his dream. Meanwhile, where was the emperor? On a floating golden palace, sipping rare wine, surrounded by dancers and musicians. He even built over 40 palaces along the canal so he wouldn't get bored while sailing. Basically, he turned national suffering into his personal luxury cruise. As famine spread and rebellions broke out, what did Yang do? Keep building! Eventually, in 618 AD, one of his own men had enough and assassinated him in a toilet. No throne, no palace, no Last Supper, just a royal flush. To be fair, the canal still exists today, but it's built on a foundation of bones, blood, and one man's ridiculous vanity. Have you ever heard of a king who ruled over a country he never even visited? Sounds like a bad joke? Nope, meet King Leopold II of Belgium, a man who turned colonialism into a personal business of horror. In the late 1800s, Leopold didn't conquer Congo for Belgium. He bought it. Legally. Like a villain buying a whole country on eBay. He called it the Congo Free State, but, spoiler alert, it wasn't free. It was his private playground the size of Western Europe where he could do whatever he wanted. And what did he want? Rubber. Lots of it. When rubber became the gold of the industrial age, Leopold turned Congo into a real-life horror factory. He forced the native people to harvest rubber. No pay, no breaks, no mercy. Didn't meet your quota? Get your hand chopped off. Can't work anymore because, well, no hands? Get beaten anyway. Women and children? Also targets. There are actual photos of soldiers smiling next to piles of severed hands because, yes, hands were used as proof of punishment. Meanwhile, back in Europe, Leopold was seen as a philanthropist king. He threw charity galas, built monuments, and was praised by politicians, all while millions in Congo were dying under forced labor. Eventually, journalists and missionaries started exposing the truth. The world gasped. Wait, he's not the good guy? Under pressure, Belgium took the colony away from Leopold. And what happened to him? Nothing. He died rich, peaceful, and smug. Moral of the story? The most dangerous tyrants are the ones who smile for the camera while hiding a mountain of severed hands behind the curtain.